Maybe. I don't know. Yesterday I wasn't feeling great, and today I was feeling fine. And until this evening, I'm feeling like I don't know. Just I'm not sure exactly what it is, but yeah. How's your ankle?
Well, hopefully it's nothing too big. Um, I have not to. I'll answer it in just a second. Not to sidetrack. The is it like head cold, not great, or is it other?
Um, I'm not sure.
And the reason I ask is because yesterday and today, both in the evening, I've had that slight bit of drainage, but it's gone by morning. And so
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
okay, I wasn't sure if it was the same kind of thing. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
It's like you don't
It's
really
hard.
feel sick, but you don't feel normal.
Yeah, yeah, and it's that feeling that you feel sometimes. There's like, is something coming on? I can't even quite tell if it's that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's something in the air then if both of us have a semblance of a feeling of similarity there.
I'm wondering if I am starting to be more like I've noticed as I've gotten older, I'm ever so slightly more affected. It seems like every so as I've gotten older, I don't know at what increment I could say. I don't want to say every year because it doesn't feel like every year, but I feel like I'm ever so slightly more affected by seasonal allergies, like pollen related seasonal allergies.
I've noticed for me it's like it goes back and forth. Like I'll have a couple of years where I get hit as the seasons change, and then a couple of years where it's like it doesn't phase me.
I know that I never really felt like I had it. As a kid, I never had any allergies to anything that I know that I know of or can remember. And I remember as a teenager, not when I started mowing the lawn, but like when I've been mowing the lawn for 5 years. I was 15 or 16. I started noticing that I was whatever was affecting me, and it was just like to the extent of like I would I could tell like particulates were getting into my nose, and I would sneeze a few times, and that would be the extent of it. And I noticed that it's gotten even you know into my 30s. Like when I was in my 30s mowing the lawn, it was even more so. I would maybe sneeze twice as much, which might be 4 or 5 sneezes. So it's really nothing to write home about. And so I'm wondering if this is a little more of that. I'm not sure.
Maybe. To answer your question, if it's basically the same.
Yeah,
Tomorrow as we record,
they're taking off the cast, right?
Yep, the cast should come off. I was told it would come off. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
And
The plan. That's the plan.
yeah, and so I should be able to actually clean that skin for the first time
Yeah.
since the surgery, which I'm sure will feel better. Outside of that, it's more of the same though, because I still can't put weight on it for 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
even though it won't be in a cast, it won't be in this type of cast. I'm supposed to wear that air cast, the
Right.
boot. So I've got a few questions around that, like am I supposed to sleep with it immobilized, or is the cast more the boot more just a protective measure if there's accidental pressure or something put, like if I'm using the knee crutch or something and I turn and my foot hits something, is that to keep it from being knocked, and or is it really a matter of maintaining immobilization for 6 weeks?
I'd expect that. Unfortunately, I expect the latter, but I'm no doctor.
Yeah, I do too, but I also know that in the comments it's like it's if it's coming off for a shower, then there's got to be some lack of concern for certain levels of bumpage. Like I just want to understand that overall.
Well, I think, yeah, my thought on that is that, and here's where like this is probably just showing my overprotectiveness or I'm not sure what the word is, but like concern for.
Overabundance of caution.
Thank you, and maybe to a fault. That's yet to be determined. Is that it's like when you're awake, you're cognizant, you're the expectation is that you're cognizant of things, and you not being a klutzy person. I think that's that's sufficient. Whereas it's like if you're asleep, it's like you want some indicator that at some point if you're groggy and waking up, some indicator on you or something to indicate to you that oh yes, my foot is delicate in a delicate situation. That's I'm sure there's a more succinct way of saying that, but that's
Yeah, I follow what you're saying because I have the same concern. But the flip side of it, I also have that um, kind of thought process that at this point is like accidental flexion really a concern? Like, just what is the concern? I guess is the better
right.
point. Is it the accidental pressure, which I can understand because it's I'm waiting essentially at this point for bone to heal predominantly. If it were just the tendon, then I should be cleared to put weight on the foot around this point. But because of the bone work, it is prolonging the non-weight bearing phase. And so that's why I do wonder if flexing the foot a little bit is okay, or if the flexing action is part of the concern for like the bone healing around the titanium. And I don't know. I didn't ask before. It wasn't a milestone that I was reaching to inquire about at the time. I had to get through the cast phase first. So some interesting questions, but yeah, they'll be answered tomorrow.
Good. I was actually today. I was thinking. Did he go last Wednesday or is he going tomorrow? And then I was like, oh, it's tomorrow.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be 3 weeks in a cast, not 4. But last week my doctor wasn't going to be in town, and so I get the benefit of an extra week in the cast, essentially. Which you could look at it negatively, of course, because it's a prolonged time frame. But for me, I almost prefer it.
Yeah.
Just because it's that extra week of pretty stellar protection keeping me from doing something stupid. And it's given me a chance to really get used to navigating around that immobilization, so that if continued immobilization is really a big deal, then it's just kind of more of the same. I haven't had that shortened or compressed time frame to maybe push boundaries. Or I guess everybody has a different approach, but like if it were in a cast for the shorter time frame, even by a week, I would probably be more inclined to try doing things than I am at this point for some reason. And I think it's just because with this whole process, it's been a constant self-reminder that this was fairly extensive work.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
And so even though like in the cast, I feel like I want to flex it, I also, if I like flex the toe up a little bit too far, it's uncomfortable. and talking about with what limited range of motion I have now. And so like for me,
chills.
Well, and I think that's why for me, the prolonged period of time just helps reaffirm that mental state in this particular case.
I see that. I can see that. Have you thought about any sort of rejuvenating products that you'll apply to the skin once it's free and in the air?
I haven't specifically. I don't even know how bad it's going to be. Like the tips of the toes, of course, are all I can really see at the moment, and those are so dry and flaky. I have no idea what to expect for the rest of the leg. I assume all basically the same.
No, I'd expect maybe less there.
Maybe.
I think that I would expect the toes to have the part that's exposed, like on the edge of the cast up, have the worst bit.
Okay.
Or the.
Well, if so, then it shouldn't be too terribly bad, because even the like calf and everything and shin on the upper end, right as the cast meets, don't look too bad. It's just the toes.
Are you a user of Aquaphor?
Not normally. I mean, we keep it on hand because it's used widely in the household. I've got I don't remember the brand now. There's a particular lotion brand that's really made for uh, varying degrees of oily skin. You know, you've got some that's super light and some that's super thick. I'm sure most lotion companies actually have the same kind of range. This just happens to be the one brand that I keep on hand, and I cannot remember the brand off the top of my head. It was one that it's a typically white bottle, red pump. Um, if you see it, you'd recognize it. But that's the tends to be what I keep on hand for when my hands get really dry, because I don't like a really thick, greasy lotion, but I
Oh,
like
I
it
hate
to
that.
I like it to coat like a thick, greasy lotion, but not feel thick and greasy. And this particular brand is the only one that I've ever had that meets that criteria.
I'm a fan of Aquaphor because for a number of reasons, like um, it's far better than chapstick for healing dried, irritated skin. Um, but I've used it a number of ways. But the application I use most is actually for the inside of my nose. I think I know I've mentioned to you. I'm not sure if it's been made it into the show, but I've mentioned that in my early 20s, I worked in a couple of different research labs, and I managed animal colonies. And I think this is correlative, but at the time that I was managing these rat and mice colonies, I developed like a severe nose irritation, like inner nose irritation, to the extent that it's very difficult for me to feel comfortable. And I don't know why I decided to shove some Aquaphor up my nose, but I did one day. And I just thought, well, it's good for chapped lips. Maybe that'll help my nose. And it did. It made a significant difference. And, I'll take a clean Q-tip, put it in the Aquaphor, load it up, put it in my nose, and then use another clean tip to get the other side. And it really has helped with any of the nose irritations that I have. I think, like I said, it correlates with beginning to work in that lab, but I think that it just the inside of my nose gets so very dry that it becomes problematic. But it's not so dry that I have I don't have frequent or issues with nosebleeds. Just incredible, just a level of discomfort it's the are you in pain? It's like, no, it's just it's 3.14. It's low, but it's never ending.
Yeah, it I know we tend to keep it on hand. One, especially if you have a kid, you learn to use it quite a bit anyway for all sorts of things with the skin. But for wounds, it's typically better to put Aquaphor
I've
on
heard
like a
that.
cut than it is to actually use Neosporin or something, unless you're really concerned about the uh,
Infection.
right infection risk, because the Aquaphor helps protect the skin more and promotes that environment for the healthy bacteria to continue.
Oh, that makes sense. I saw a dermatologist talk about that, and it was really about the dangers, or the not the dangers, but the why you wouldn't use why hydrogen peroxide shouldn't be used to clean cuts. And um, I remember learning this in chemistry class in college. Um, it's in there. It gets in there, and it's not only is it it kills cells indiscriminately. So while it's killing bacterial cells, it's also killing your own tissue, and that's not good. And it at a cellular level, it's causing more damage than it is, and it is good because we're humans, or I don't want to say I can't. There's 8 billion of us, and I can't lump us all in together. But in developed countries, and again, that's still too big of a. That's too. I need a smaller brush. If you practice good hygiene, then um, a resulting infection from a cut is pretty atypical. And then when there is concern, when you knowingly expose yourself to a dirty foreign object that could have we clean we treat it like you said applying Neosporin if there's concern for infection.
Or just good old soap and water, depending on, what it.
Very, very, very much so. Depending on how deep the wound is, yes, soap and water is often the best cleanser.
I sent you a link. What I couldn't remember was Eucerin being the brand for the lotion.
I think I've heard of them.
Yeah. I not one that I use that often, but for whatever reason, when my hands do get dry in our winters, as they're often prone to do, it seems to be the only thing that I can take or that I can use that does really good at relieving the discomfort and not feeling like I've just caked my skin with grease.
It's funny. I know the brand now. At first, I was like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that," but now I've realized how it's spelled, and I've never heard it said out loud, and I've pronounced it differently in my head.
I wasn't entirely sure how to pronounce it.
So in my head, I've always pronounced it Eucerin.
Yeah, I could see that.
But when you said Eucerin, I thought, oh, maybe it's got I spelled it in my head with a K, and then I was like, oh no, it could be with a C, and it's the same thing I'm thinking of.
I've never heard anybody say it out loud, so I don't know.
It's like one of the words that one of my sisters said when she was in grade school. I think she was probably like 6th grade health. She said enamel. She was asking what enamel was, and it turned out that it was enamel on the outside of a tooth. I remember reading a book, and I kept saying the name Aileen, Aileen, and my mom corrected me. That's Eileen. I was like, oh, okay, it's spelled not like that. So
it's I'm sure you've heard it plenty of times as well. But one of the things that you often can tell if someone is an avid reader is if they have a large vocabulary and have a number of words that they just mispronounce because they've never heard them spoken. They've always just read them and tried to figure out what they are.
The one of the most interesting ones is one of the main characters from the Harry Potter series. I remember people saying it's like none of us knew how to pronounce that until we saw the movie, and I was like, I just said Hermione in my head.
Oh, I can see that.
Did you know the name Hermione?
I did not, but I didn't read the books until after I watched the first couple of movies.
Yeah. I kept in my head. I kept reading Hermione, and then the movies were See, I know that I saw the first movie before I read any of the books, but I didn't pay attention. This was back in the Columbia House days, and I don't remember what the DVD equivalent of Columbia House, but one of the selections sometime in 2001 was the very first Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and that movie.
Yes,
I watched it and I sent it back, and I did not pay attention. That's how I knew I needed to send it back. But it turns out that was a decent movie.
I need to go through and actually rewatch all of them again. I don't know the last time I rewatched the first 2 or 3. Not for any particular reason other than I remember enjoying them, and I know I haven't seen them as often as I've watched some of the others. So it kind of makes sense that I should go back and rewatch all of them just with some time passed and see if they think they still hold up.
We rewatched in out of order. Becca and the kids and I, we watched one night. We watched one weekend. We watched The Chamber of Secrets one night, and The Prisoner of Azkaban, and they held up pretty well. The one that I hate the most, the movie that I hate the most, was The Goblet of Fire, for a number of reasons. One of them being that it was, I feel, the least true adaptation, and also I happened to watch that movie the day after, the night that I finished the book. So it's like I finished the book sometime during the day and then watched the movie that night, and it's got like I said, it's the least. Yeah, it was just not a good adaptation of the book, and it was fresh on my mind when I watched it, so I have strong feelings about that one. Not so much that I don't acknowledge its existence. Because if I didn't acknowledge its existence, I couldn't bash it.
Fair enough. And the funny thing is I keep hearing rumors of this movie that was filmed that shares a title with the book that I read, but I didn't even read them that close together. Like the book was, I don't know. There was certainly some distance and time removed from when people were talking about this non-existent film and the book that I read.
Did you watch the non-existent film before you read the book? Because
No, it was after I read the book. So
so you, I'm
Jurassic
assuming.
Park, Jurassic Park came out, which prompted me to read that book,
Okay,
and then I
in
went
the
ahead
early
and read,
90s.
yeah, and then I went ahead and read The Lost World.
And there are rumors that there's a movie that you have not seen.
I have seen it. I have to admit that I've seen it. That's the only
Okay.
way I can admit that it's that horrible.
I do remember talking about this. I just remember the first time we had this conversation. I was just like befuddled because I was like, you do remember that in Jurassic Park 3, there's a dream sequence where Velociraptor talks to Dr. Grant. I was like, you do remember this in consideration of which is a worse movie. And you're like, yes, I do. And my position remains. And I'm like, well, okay. I just needed that to be out there in perpetuity.
Yeah, I have no problems embracing that film and its ridiculousness than acknowledging the other one exists.
I understand. I can understand. I can't agree, but I can understand.
And the funny thing is, if I had never read the book, it was an okay movie.
I get that. I get that. I think the same thing. If I had not read if I had not read uh, if I had not read the book, The Goblet of Fire, I would have been. I think my take on it would have been this is the worst of the 8 movies, or the least good of the 8 movies, however you want to spin it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. See, now I don't remember when I actually read the books. I finished the books before the movies finished, but I don't remember where in the course during the course of the movies I decided to start reading the books. Um, but I do, whether it was before or after is kind of irrelevant. That is still the one film that I just have no desire to go back and rewatch out of the series. And part of it's because I had such a problem with the incredulousness surrounding how his name got into the goblet. If he wasn't that phenomenal a wizard, it's just a gaping plot mechanism to me that bothered me the entire time.
I think somebody had a really good. There's a really good take that a friend of mine had on the Harry Potter series, and that is they're not good books. They're just really fun books. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're better than most books, I think, but they're not good. They're not good. They're just so fun and such a good story that that I think that boosts them in the reader's mind more than the actual quality of writing.
And they did a decent job of playing with the material for what they were. If you think about classic fantasy books,
There's
it's
there was something very new about it.
yeah. But if you think about like the Forgotten Realms series, is probably the one that comes to mind most when people think about that sci-fi fantasy or medieval fantasy type genre. If you exclude more recent things that have hit pop culture, like Game of Thrones and all that, expanding that a little bit. But prior to Harry Potter, if you talked about stories with magic, you typically thought something in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's not as approachable en masse the way Harry Potter was. So I think that nuance is what really elevated it, because it wasn't like Star Wars where it really embraced the sci-fi aspect of fantasy, but it also wasn't out of the realm of what could be enjoyed by the same general fan base, user base. It also definitely was not, Tolkien-esque as far as that realm of fantasy. And so it walked that kind of entertainment line better than some of the other more prevalent things that come to mind.
it hit just right, lightning in a bottle, as they say. The I know that I watched either the first two or first three movies before I started reading the books, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to read these books because everybody around me had already read the books and were watching the movie. Like it's like we're gonna. I think that what was going on at the time was the either the sixth book had just come out or was coming out, and people were like, my friends and folks I was with were, okay, we're gonna watch these, and you have to watch them with us because that's your lot in life, and we're gonna pressure you to read them. And so I read them, and I'm glad that they did because they were good. But I know that I finished it before the seventh and eighth movie came out.
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I finished. I'm not going to remember for sure. I know I finished all the books before 7 and 8, as far as the films go. But I think I finished them, like I was current with the films being released. I think by 5, but I'm not certain.
I know that I didn't finish. I know that I didn't finish before. I'm fairly confident I didn't finish before the sixth movie came out. I do. So one of the things I do remember reading the seventh book while I was working in the city, and there was one of my coworkers. She was like, "I envy you being able to read it for the first time." She's like, "I've already read it, so I don't get you don't get to read it again for the first time. You only get that once." And so she's like, I'm envying you getting to read it. And so like every day she'd ask me, "Where are you?" And I'd tell her where I was, and that was kind of fun. It was nice to have that kind of. That was unexpected to. I wasn't expecting somebody from work to be asking me like that interested in my reading of the book the first time. And then I do remember. I'm pretty sure I've told you this story. I don't know that I've said it on the show, but I do remember reading on the subway, either going home, and I remember getting to an emotional part, an emotional part of the book, and like I'm reading, I'm composing myself, but tears are running down my face, and somebody across the car from me was like, they saw that I was reading. The Deathly Hallows, and they looked at me and they said, "Dobby?" And I said, "Yeah." And that was it. It was a really nice moment. But I can't tell that story to my kids because they are, I think they're on the fourth book, I think.
Oh, so they're reading them as well?
Yeah, their mom has told them they're not allowed to. They've read them, and I think they've also listened to them on audiobook. Their mom has told them they're not allowed to watch the movie until they've read the book. Which is very much how I was treated when I was reading the books.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I can understand that for sure.
And I think that's why we watched the Goblet of Fire the day I finished it, because they were like, "It's time to watch the Goblet of Fire. Finish the book." They don't actually talk like that.
I would be tempted to make Jacob read The Hobbit before watching any of the Tolkien films, but I couldn't. I don't think I could force anyone to read Tolkien other than The Hobbit. As much as I enjoy The Lord of the Rings, I don't think I could force somebody to read it before they enjoyed the films.
Yeah, I definitely read The Hobbit before. Well, because none of the movies were made. The only movie that was out was the animated. The Rankin Bass animated one, which I know The Hobbit was narrated by Sean Connery.
I need to find those at some point. Not that they were great, but just so that I have copies of them in the library.
I have a rip of The Hobbit. I don't have the Lord of the Rings rip. And this is why I haven't uploaded Detective Pikachu. That is, my Mac Mini has been out of commission for 2 weeks, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I'm
like, it died on you, or
no, I foobarred it.
Oh.
I wanted to upgrade to Sequoia, and it doesn't support Koya, so I used OpenCore Legacy Patcher. It's like the third computer I've done it on, and it's the first one that I have. Well, it's not too bad. It'll power on. I'll get to the login screen. It'll boot, and then almost halfway through the progress bar for booting into the user, it powers off and starts up back to the EFI or the boot picker. So I was doing some stuff. I was trying to figure out. I really haven't given it. I haven't really given it the good old college try and troubleshooting it. The first thing I did was reset the NVRAM, and that did not solve the issue. I was hoping I'd get lucky, but the reason I have been delaying troubleshooting it is that it's in a closet, and I am gonna have to get it and set it up on a desk with a keyboard and display. And
I understand.
Yes, thank you. I knew you would.
Yeah, both of the minis that I have in the house are headless. One is sitting with the rack in the garage, and the other is sitting on the entertainment center.
I have mine sitting on top of the cabinet that I bought from you. So, and then so there's that. Then there's I felt like there was something. Oh yeah, so I have been casually looking at Mac Minis with Apple Silicon on the used market because I don't know if you've looked at the used market, but I was watching Luke Miani I was watching one of his YouTube videos, and he was talking about how I expected the a Mac resale market to tank for Macs that have Intel chips, even in 2020 when the first Apple Silicon chips were released. I knew that was going to tank. But apparently, not only has that tanked, but the resale market for Apple Silicon is fairly lower than it was when Intel was the only chip they were using. And I thought that was interesting. But I think Mac Minis have the highest resale. So you can get a notebook for a lower percentage of its MSRP than you can a Mac Mini.
I think that makes sense. Mostly because of the different use cases where the Mini really serves a purpose like that.
Exactly. Because it's like, enthusiasts, it's like, yeah, I'll take, as many minis as I can have. And as many, I think, I can't remember, on a podcast, somebody says he's been referring to his significant other as the historic commission or the historic. I can't remember to how he refers to his significant other, but basically, you can't put computer shit all over our house, and which is what would happen.
Equating them to like the Historic Home Preservation Society group.
Yes,
I know where the comparison was going. I'm still blanking on what they generally call them, though.
The Historic Preservation Society, perhaps?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can't remember the exact term that he's saying, but I was amused by it. And as soon as I heard it, I knew that he was talking about his wife. It's like, the saying, when the only tool that you have is a hammer, everything is a nail.
Yeah.
For him, it's small computers like Raspberry Pis. He's got a Raspberry Pi. He's just looking for a problem to solve.
I actually have an unused Raspberry Pi at the moment.
What model?
What are they on currently?
5.
All right, so mine's a 4.
I have a 2B, and it's got a nice little PoE hat, which, and as it turns out, you can buy a piece of metal. There's actually a lot of different kinds of piece of metal that you can buy to rack mount them.
Yeah, I picked it up relatively inexpensively, thinking that I would connect it downstairs to the TV just for retro gaming kind of thing, and then I never followed through with it. Like I did have it set up and connected to the TV briefly just to make sure everything worked, but then I never used it. So I finally unplugged it, and this was not too terribly long ago because I mentioned, I know one of the evenings we recorded that I was considering setting up a lab again. So I had unplugged it in preparation for trying to figure out what I was going to do there, and then I just haven't done anything on that path.
I thought about I initially got mine to mess around with Pi-hole, and I never did. And I still could, but so far, just changing my DNS to a DNS that blocks a lot of the ad servers has been working. I'm wondering if I can get better results with Pi-hole. I should try. But I've also thought about moving my Homebridge instance to the Raspberry Pi just until I sort out what's going on with my Mac Mini. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after-show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap. I'm not entirely sure what to what to go
I don't know
next.
either.
I did have, and I wanted to leave a pause because I realized I had a question for you that I hadn't asked, but I don't know if it should go into the show either. But I hadn't followed back up on your general health since the surgery. I was realizing it last week. Like I had been doing a good job of following up on, dealing with like Ozempic and that everything else. But I got sidetracked when my foot got sliced open, and just didn't think about it again. And so I wanted to rectify that, but I didn't know if you wanted that in the show.
Oh, it can. Yeah. It's been so. A couple of things happened at the same time, and they were a few things actually. The holidays rolled around. Some general, not resistance, because resistance is a wrong word, but a loss of efficacy around the holidays. There, I noticed a loss of efficacy, and then also my scale stopped working. So those three things resulted in maybe like over the course of 3 months, a 15-pound regain or increase in. I got down to 255 pounds, and I got a new scale, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But I got a new scale, and when I weighed myself, I was just under 270. So and I could tell something. I could tell like clothes were not quite the way they were when I was at my lowest, which would have been in October. And so, a few things. I went up a dose, or went up in concentration of the medicine, and I just started that this week, Sunday. And but even then, I messed around with the last dose of the. So I'm on a 12.5 milligrams per dose concentration, and prior to that it was 10 milligrams. And I messed around with skipping a week and found that I got increased efficacy if I had skipped a week. And then so I actually ended up losing about 5 pounds in the course of 2 weeks. So I'm back on a slightly higher dosage and can tell that it's effective. And I've balanced, still balancing healthy eating with to prevent negative side effects. That's where I am.
Not too bad then. Yeah.
No.
For not thinking to ask for a bit of a prolonged time. Are you, just as a refresher, because I can't remember, what did you have a target that you were trying to hit, or is it just maintenance kind of at this point?
No, I'm assuming the number is going to be in the low 200s, but it's really about clothes size and how clothes fit. And it's just kind of like, I'm looking to not have any accessory, fat in the abdomen there, abdomen. So just kind of, what you would expect to see, like, okay, you look at this person, they look fit and the clothes fit well. And that's really just a reflection of not being too overweight. But even beyond that, um, avoiding excessive calorie intake is actually even more important than look and feel and numbers on the scale. Because I feel like left unmedicated, I feel like there's just it's hard to satiate when consuming a reasonable amount of calories for my the energy or the number of calories I burn versus what I take in. I feel like it's really unbalanced, and being on the medication I think it's overcompensated for how many calories, and that's how you lose weight. But once I get to like, okay, this is the target size, I'd still want to figure out what, at that point I want to figure out what do I need to do to maintain what I would maintain a healthy caloric intake.
Makes sense. Obviously I am not able to do a lot of the things that I was doing to maintain body composition prior, but over the past couple of weeks, I've been playing more with like upper body and core related stuff that I could still do with the cast on, because that doesn't require me to stand up to do those things necessarily. And I feel much better being active again, which is good because it means that I'm not going to just be a slob, I guess. I say it negatively, but the very real concern that a break in activity can promote that kind of downward slide into laziness. And for me, like the couple of week break where I didn't do anything, and then the actual desire to do something, even if I hate what I'm doing, to me that's a big positive, because it means that I do want to be active, and it's a lifestyle change. I've reached that point, right? So very positive from a overall behavior standpoint. I'm so ready to get back to doing something I enjoy, because right now playing with that is just so, there's so much dread, so much procrastination around. I just don't want to do it. I'm not interested. Do I really have to? And kicking myself and making myself do it because I know I feel better afterwards. One, two, I'm not losing as much from a just long-term standpoint by not being active with regard to active calorie expenditure and intake and everything else. So I don't have to really watch like consumption like I would if I were letting this keep me from doing those things, which is all fine, but it's just to make the long kind of rambling story shorter. I've noticed my upper body starting to adapt a little bit because of the focus there. That's not normally a focus that I really would have emphasized before, as opposed to more kind of full body. Not really. I've never been a big weightlifter, I'll put it that way. And so even though I'm not doing much with weights, because I don't want to do anything that's going to put me in an off balance or kiltered position where I might accidentally put my foot down, I am doing a lot of like one-legged push-ups where the cast is just sitting on top of my other leg, because it's easy and convenient and it works the muscles that I'm concerned about working. And so I've noticed changes in like the way shirts fit for the positive overall, but I've also noticed like pants and all are fitting tighter and tighter as we go as well. And so it's just real funny how all of that plays into where you want to be, because I would gladly take the trade-off of shirts not fitting tighter to have the pants not fit tighter like they're starting to. And so I have been working on or playing with different ways to be even more active if I can make myself do it without risking anything with that foot. And I probably am not going to have a good answer, but only 6 weeks left before I have to be overly cautious. So I'm sure I'll help mitigate what it would be otherwise.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say, with the last watchOS update, I don't get notifications the same as I used to, and so like I don't, I used to see often when you would like complete this or that, and now I'm finding that I'm seeing it when I'm looking, like when I'm checking my phone for my own stuff. I'm like, oh, it shows that it's like, oh yeah, okay, he's still staying active in some way, shape, or form. So
Yeah, my goal at this point is before the full 12 weeks is up. So, I have 6 weeks left to go. I need to be able to do at least 2 pull-ups again. And proper pull-up, not chin-up.
yeah, yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Because I can do chin-ups still without too much of a problem. But pull-ups have almost always eluded me. There's only a short time, a long time ago, when I was pretty good at being able to do a few. So that's my measuring stick for recovery time frame, is to be able to do 2 pull-ups again.
I think I've never been able to. In my adult life, I've never been able to do a pull-up, and that's a goal of mine, is to be able to do a pull-up. And like right now, I can't do pull-ups or chin-ups, so I know chin-ups will be easier, but I can definitely tell that over the last couple of years, I've lost a lot of muscle mass in my entire body, and I imagine it has to do with 2 things, and that is 1, age, and 2, lack of any sort of weight resistance. And so now that 2 of the biggest monkeys are off of my back in life, I want to get back to the gym to be able to, like I started doing push-ups, and it's like that's something you can do always wherever you are. And I can tell, like, based on the number of push-ups I can do, I definitely have lost some muscle mass, and so I've at least started those back to regain. And it hasn't been long enough. It's only been like a week or 2, so it hasn't been long enough to see any major differences. But putting in the time is the big deal.
Yeah, it's funny. Time in general is such an important factor, and it's the one thing that we always get just tripped up on. And sure, part of it is because you have all sorts of stuff that you see online about like abs in 30 days or 60 days or whatever, constantly being bombarded with the whole quick result thing. But it's just the nature of human desire for instant gratification. And so once you get past that hurdle and you don't feel that impatience and you're able to just kind of keep going, it is actually pretty amazing how quick things change. It's just getting past that. I generally say 3 to 4 week time frame. Like I know for habits that there's different info out there backing between like 14 days, 21 days. Just either way, if you can get through 3 to 4 weeks, you typically are going to be able to continue and get the results you're after. You have to get past that initial time hurdle.
Well, I think it also coincides with actually seeing a noticeable difference, like, or starting to see results of the effort put in at that 3 to 4 week time frame.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that depends a bit too on what it is and like starting point and all as well.
That's true. But I think these are 2 different things, yeah. But they coincide and they help. I think they both help one another.
Yeah, very, very much so.